A very good morning to you all. It's great to see you all. Thanks for coming on a Sunday morning. My name's Owen Burton. I'm an associate lecturer in music here at the University of York, and it's my privilege to be able to chair the event today, which is really exciting for me, and I'm looking forward to it immensely. So I'm just going to briefly introduce what we'll be witnessing today. So Other Voices is an interdisciplinary music project by Manasamitra for human voice and electronics, and it explores the interconnectedness between humanity and the natural world. Rooted in South Indian musical traditions and informed by philosophical and ecological thought, the work seeks to give voice to the voiceless, the flora and fauna of our planet, through an immersive soundscape that merges organic vocal expression with electronic transformation. So it draws inspiration from Martha C. Nussbaum's Justice for Animals, which argues for an ethical recognition of non-human life as sentient and deserving of justice. And this philosophical grounding informs the project's central artistic question, which is how can sound become a medium for empathy and interspecies communication in an age of ecological crisis. And what we're going to see today is a musical performance which is written and composed by vocalist Supriya Nagarajan, and it's accompanied by musician and sound artist Duncan Chapman. And I'm also really pleased to be able to introduce Prathivadi Anand, who's Professor of Public Policy and Sustainability at the University of Bradford. And I think Anand is going to be taking us through a lot of the context around the music today, interweaving between some of the pieces that we're hearing. So I'm very pleased to have you with us here as well. Thank you all for joining us today. I think that's everything, and I'm really pleased to be able to hand over to our artists today.
Thank you, Owen, and good morning. What a pleasure to be here to share some of the glimpses from conversations that we have been having for maybe about a couple of years. Academics usually stay within their kind of silos and don't want to talk to people, let alone from another discipline. In this case, completely different field, which is professional musicians, artists. So I think it has been a tremendous learning journey, especially for me, to be able to know and think the creativity, the process that the artist can bring. This work is inspired in a way by the foundational work of Professor Amartya Sen. In fact, I've been privileged to hear him speak at several places, including about 500 yards from where we are sitting in this beautiful campus in York some years ago. And through his work, we have learned about how development should be about expanding substantive freedoms. We all like our own voices, and when some people can take it too far, we call them dictatorial, etc. But we also like other people's voices, and the ability to hear others' voice has produced billions of pounds of industrial kind of products as well as services. But the ability to hear others' voices has a tremendous history. I think we can find this throughout our human history, reflected in ancient Vedic hymns, Homeric poems, and Ashokan edicts strewn on stone. I think our greatest ability has not been about manipulating matter into weapons, but in our ability to develop empathy and to understand others, and imagination. So these become crucial to our existence, if you like. These helped us in a way to move away from a Hobbesian world of, if you like, control and brutish and short nature to one of building institutions that can protect everyone, and the beautiful Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we celebrate every year. But that journey is only half and is incomplete. And I think in her one of the recent books, Professor Martha Nussbaum, who has also written quite a lot about the capabilities approach, has actually titled it Justice for Animals. And this book was a kind of inspiration when we began conversing, and we found so many connections that our empathy and our ability about other voices should also extend to understanding non-human animals, nature, ecosystems, etc. And through that, whether we can understand the emotion and whether that emotion can help inform our reason. So that is the background to this project.
Thank you very much to both Owen and Dr. Anand. Absolutely correct. We started speaking 2 years ago, and we are here testing out a small snippet of what promises to be a long journey in exploring the planet's non-human voices, whether it be flora, fauna, or even the geology of the planet. I mean, every aspect of our ecosystem contributes to the existence of humankind, and we are trying to make what is a huge project musically appeal to the people that actually come and listen to us. And so you go away with a thought after the show to say, yeah, that's something to think about, because that's all we can do. We can think about it, lay a seed, and everybody can go away, and maybe something will change, even if the change is minuscule and gradual. So that's the hope and fond wish for this show. And the first piece I'm actually going to present musically is a preset piece which celebrates the flora and fauna in the garden of Vrindavan, where the blue-skinned god Lord Krishna actually danced with all his friends and maidens of the local village. So the beauty of this piece, written in the 16th century, is that the main emphasis was, even though it is the Bhakti movement and it's about one of the pantheon of Indian gods, it still celebrates the flora and fauna more and celebrates the garden more than actually the entire prayer element of that kind of a lyric. So presenting to you what we call Edale interlude, because it so happened that Duncan and myself, who have been collaborating for a long time, created this piece to celebrate the Kinder project that Jarvis Cocker actually initiated in Edale in Derbyshire, and I had the privilege of going and inaugurating that project with this song. So he then encouraged me to actually make an album, and that was the first song for the album. So this is Edale Interlude from Dusk Notes. Tararan. Tararan. Nandanandana Nandalagari Braje Braja Sundari Nandanandana Nandalagari Braje Braja Sundari Nandanandana. Vrindavane muda viharanti. Vrindavane muda viharanti. Vrindavane muda viharanti. Kandyavanam prakashayanti. Vrindavane muda viharanti. Kandyavanam prakashayanti. Nanda Nandana Nandalagari Vraja Vraja Sundari. Rasamandala Naika Mridu Hasanindita Chandrika. Rasamandala Naika Mridu Hasanindita Chandrika. Mridu hasanindita Chandrika. Vasudeva pranatita. Vasudeva pranatita. Vasudeva pranatita. Lalita dasuni aradita. Lalita dasuni aradita. Nandanandana Nandalagari Vraja Vraja Sundari. The poet actually says, Lalita Dasar is the name of the poet, and he actually says, I sort of dedicate this song to the lover of nature, O Lord Krishna. So he's talking about nature, and he wants to dedicate his poetry to this person who cares for nature around him in the garden of Vrindavan. So that was the first piece, and I'll hand over to Dr. Anand.
In trying to understand this particular book, Justice for Animals, we need to kind of imagine the much bigger context. While there has been a lot of research and thinking into developing regulations and legislation about prevention of cruelty to animals, that is only very minimal, if you like. So Martha Nussbaum asks us to take this journey much, much further. That's why she framed it as a justice for animals. I'm now going to read from a different book, from a different philosopher. And this is the from the preface to the second edition of Animal Liberation Now by Yuval Noah Harari. And there is a particular paragraph that I want to read here, which might connect with the second piece. So here, Yuval Noah Harari asks us he poses several questions, and he says, ancient wild cattle were social animals. In order to survive and reproduce, they needed to communicate, cooperate, and compete effectively. Like all social mammals, wild cattle learned the necessary social skills through play. Puppies, kittens, calves, and children all love to play because evolution implanted them with this urge. In the wild, they needed to play, otherwise they would not learn the social skills vital for survival and reproduction. If a kitten or calf were born with some rare mutation that made them indifferent to play, they were unlikely to survive or reproduce. What happens when human farmers now take a young calf, separate her from her mother, put her in a tiny cage, vaccinate her against various diseases, provide her with food and water, and then, when she is old enough, artificially inseminate her with bull sperm? From an objective perspective, this calf no longer needs either maternal bonding or playmates in order to survive and reproduce. All her needs are being cared for by her human masters. But from a subjective perspective, the calf still feels a very strong urge to bond with her mother and to play with other calves. If these urges are not fulfilled, the calf suffers greatly.
I think that's so relevant because the second piece came from, it's at the core of this whole Other Voices project. I read a story about an elephant calf in the state of Kerala in India, where I come from. And because farming land has now encroached forest areas and elephant herds are frequently found in forest areas, the elephants now actually come into the farms to forage for food because their food sources have dried up or in some cases reduced. And farmers, therefore, have difficulty protecting their crops. So what they tend to do is have tiny pineapples with explosives to turn away if they came and stepped on it, it would explode. It wouldn't kill them, but it would still frighten them enough for them not to actually venture close to the farms. But it so happened that this one pregnant elephant calf actually swallowed a pineapple without realizing it, and she died. And that story, for a long time, left a deep impact in my head. And so this next piece, and so when Justice for Animals came along and the discussions came along, that was the first thing that occurred to me to say, it is a necessity for us to grow food as human beings, but have we considered what we are doing to the flora and fauna of our planet? And how will it actually impact us if we don't pay due heed to the ecosystems around us? Because insects are dwindling in population thanks to light pollution, and animal populations are now moving away. Certain animals and birds are becoming extinct. So how will that actually impact us as human beings? We may have less food in due course of time. I mean, we all know about the bee story, where, if the bees didn't do what they are supposed to do, then we may not have food. So every little thing matters. The ecosystem is a definite and connected system, which we have to be mindful of. And so this next piece is a tiny piece about Chinnu the elephant. And I've tried to keep it very happy rather than sad, because it's, we can reflect and hopefully go away with a thought, but I don't want us to go away feeling despondent and, feeling terrible about what's happening around us, because that doesn't help. So this is a little poetry about Chinnu the elephant. In the blue hills, where the rain clouds sleep, my mother walks and the valleys breathe. Silver rivers sing through sandalwood trees, and the wind smells sweet with wild jasmine leaves. Neela Naganam Shikara Samuhe Nidra Magra Meda Samhare Majjanani Gatirasavo Dharigavi Chandata Tarugata Sita Duniganam Kutuja Sumer Madhuri Krita Sarvam. In Sanskrit. And I chose Sanskrit only because it's one of the oldest languages in today's linguistic world. Neelanaganam Shikara Samuhe Nidra Magnameda Samhare Majjanani Gatirasabodhari Gabi Chandana Tarugata Sita Dhuni Ganam Kutuja Sumur Madhuri Krita Sarvam. I am Chinnu, small and grey. I chase green parrots through the monsoon spray. The forest once stretched further than the sky. Grandmother says the streams ran deep and wide. Chinnu iti mama sanghya vipine Dhave Shukapika Chara Marge Gaganatala Thariktam Dhavam Vadati Kila Mata Mahi Satatam Vadati Kila Mata Mahi Satatam. But summers burn hotter every year. The bamboo cracks with thirsty fear. The jackfruit falls before it's grown, and the ancient watering holes turn into stone. Nashtam kalvaranya parisaram jvalati tapanah varshadrishyam panasam patati apakah satatam nasti sarovare Chitalislam. So we wander farther down at night, past the cardamom hills and lantern lights, through fences sharp as angry snakes, to the farms where the sugarcane shakes. Atvya atvim athavam datite ratro ela chalebhyah param तीर्थावरोषवशानिव सर्पन शल्यानिक्षुबनानुबद्धान इक्षुबनानुबद्धानम्. The humans shout, the fireflies scatter, thundersticks roar in the dark after. Mother says they're frightened too, for the rains no longer come on cue. Abhikrindate manujah दृष्टवा द्वान्तमन्यः धावन्ते स्पष्टवा बीतास्तोऽपि माता वदति वर्षति नाहि खलु काले पुनरभि काले पुनरभि. In the blue hills, where the rain clouds sleep, my mother walks and the valleys breathe. Silver rivers sing through sandalwood trees, and the wind smells sweet with wild jasmine leaves. Neelanaganam shikara samuhe नीलनगनां शिखरसमूहे निद्रामग्न मेघसंहारे निद्रामग्न मेघसंहारे मज्जननी गतिरसवो दरिगर्वे चन्दन तरुगतसितधुनि गानं कुटजसुर्मयी मधुरीकृत सर्वं I'm Chinnu, small and grey. I chase green parrots through the monsoon spray. The forest that once stretched further than the sky, I hope the streams will still run deep and wide.
The voice of Chinnu and the voice of many other animals and plants ecosystems bring us back to Martha Nussbaum's concluding chapter. Having written 310 pages, she is now summarizing in this concluding section. The struggle to improve the lot of animals and to rectify abuses needs many things: courageous activism, committed and resourceful legal work, organizations dedicated to animal lives and their committed participants, donations to those organizations, creative and rigorous scientific research. We are in the science park. Efforts to communicate the beauty, the amazing capacities, and the current plights of animals to a mass audience through journalism, film, and visual art. Even within philosophy, many different projects make valuable contributions. But the struggle also needs an overarching philosophical political theory. The theories that have guided humanity so far in addressing animal lives have each been promising in some ways, but crude or distorting in others. All of my three defective theories can ultimately revise their claims so as to accept political principles based on the capabilities approach. So I think the capabilities approach can respond better than these other theories to the facts we now know about animal lives, about the amazing diversity of animal abilities and activities, about their capacities for valuing, for forming social networks, about their capacities for cultural learning, about friendship and love. But there is no room the CA is built around the CA's capability approach. The capabilities approach is built around the idea that we must look and see what each animal life contains and values, and must protect non-reductively the most important elements in that whole diverse set of strivings. I have shown how the capability approach directs our practical thought well when we ask whether zoos are acceptable, when we frame laws and policies about both companion and wild animals, when we confront the weaknesses of international law in protecting marine mammals from harassment, when we try to articulate what is horrible about the factory farm industry, and when we try to specify the harm of puppy mills. These are but examples, and there are countless other issues where species-specific approach oriented to forms of life can help us imagine a more just world. Ours is a time of great awakening to our kinship with a world of remarkable intelligent creatures and to real accountability for our treatment of them. The capabilities approach is the best theoretical ally of all concerned humans working toward that awakening and that accountability. We have a collective responsibility to vindicate the rights of animals, and finally, we are beginning to face up to that responsibility. But I think we have the theory, though there are still many flaws and that need to be improved.
Thank you. I think that's putting it very succinctly. And if anybody is interested in the subject, this is a fantastic book to read because it gives you an insight into what is possible if we put our mind to it. I must mention that you probably will ask the questions, but before that, I just wanted to say that we used some specific pieces of music that would relate to the poetry and also relate to the context of Chinu the elephant. And I'll let Duncan say a little bit more after we have presented the third piece, which is about emotion. So the third piece that we have selected for today's presentation is about the emotion behind how we feel about the planet. There's a little bit of hope, there's a little bit of despair, and there is a little bit of poignancy to the raga or the melody that has been selected for the third piece. And very interestingly, this piece was made capturing the sounds of pots being thrown on a wheel. So we took the sounds of the pot, which made an incredible sound thanks to Duncan's super skills. And then we had to respond to that with music. So this is the third piece, which is set in a raga called Bhagishri. Nagarajan ಅಂತಗನದೂತರಿಗೆ ಕಿಂಚಿತುದಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಚಿಂತೆಯನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇರಿ ಹರಿಯನನೆ ಮನವೇ ಅಂತಗನದೂತರಿಗೆ ಕಿಂಚಿತುದಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಚಿಂತೆಯನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇರಿ ಹರಿಯನನೆ ಮನವೇ ಅಂತಗನದೋದರಿಗೆ ಕಿಂಚಿತುದಯವಿಲ್ಲ ದಿವರಾತ್ರಿಯನ್ನತೆ ವಿಷಯಲಂ ಪಡನಾದಿ ದಿವರಾತ್ರಿಯನ್ನತೆ ವಿಷಯಲಂ ಪಡನಾದಿ ಸ್ವವಿಯುಡೆಗಳೇ ನೋಡು ಭ್ರಮಿಸಬೇದ ಅಂತಗನದೂದರಿಗೆ ಕಿಂಚಿತುದಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಚಿಂತೆಯನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇರಿ ಹರಿಯನನೆ ಮನವೇ ದಿವರಾತ್ರಿಯನ್ನಲಿಲ್ಲ ಇಷ್ಟದೋರುಷನಲಿಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಸಾಲವಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊತ್ತನರಿಯೇ ಕಟ್ಲೆ ತುಂಬಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಷಣ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರವಿಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ಲೆ ತುಂಬಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಷಣ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರವಿಲ್ಲ ಇಷ್ಟರೋಳು ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನು ಮನವೇ ಅಂತಗನದೋದರಿಗೆ ಕಿಂಚಿತುದಯವಿಲ್ಲ ಚಿಂತೆಯನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇರಿ ಹರಿಯನನೆ ಮನವೇ Thank you very much. And so it's now over to all of you. Request Owen to come back.
Thank you so much, all of you, for that. It's really thought-provoking and fantastic. I think we might start with some questions from the audience, perhaps, if there are any, or any thoughts or comments. Does anybody have any of those at the moment? Yeah, yes, sir.
Would you say you are very
We'll just wait for the mic to come over and then.
It's on.
Thank you so much. Great.
Would you say you're a very hopeful person?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, I'm personally, I'm a half glass full person, so.
It's incredibly difficult, though, isn't it? I mean, we're hunting whales to extinction. We're polluting our seas with microplastics. We're filling our rivers with pollution. We're fighting bits of land. We're fighting each other over which God we believe in.
Yeah.
And the human being is fundamentally selfish, so I don't know how you can have so much hope. So
You are absolutely right. I mean, this is what the world is, isn't it? It's a mix of people. And if, you know, there is difficulty in the world, but if there is hope, then there is a chance to actually, go towards a positive path. But
how do we start that process? That's what I'm interested in.
Sure.
How do we turn a fundamentally selfish being into one that cares about?
Are we not all people in this world that care? We're all here for a reason.
Yeah, this is the start.
yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
Every little thing matters. I mean, one of the biggest lessons we have learned doing any work with climate change. So we have another project that is actually touring. We are going to be performing it on the 23rd of June, and it's about water and water scarcity and water, excess water. York suffers from floods, and that piece, I collaborated with a scientist from Leeds University, and the message that we have left everybody with is to say every little drop that you save does extend the extends the time that we humans have left on the planet. Even if we can't stop things happening, we can extend the hope, and one more year is better than 365 days less. That's the hope, really. Anybody else can chip in? Yeah, of course you can.
Why are we all here? Because we care. We want to change things. So if we will say we can't change it, it's not going to change. We have to keep on trying and keep on trying. Even if we make 5% change, 1% change, that means a lot, rather than we just going inside, we can't change what's going to happen. I think we have to think positive from this meeting, that there are people who want it, and there are people who want to change, and we can make some difference. It may not be huge, but we can make some difference.
I think the thing I took away from, is this what it is, isn't it? The thing I took away from the project Supriya was talking about, called Meltwater, was that when you hear the climate scientists we worked with talking about, a lot of it was with glacial melting in the Himalayas. Actually, when you hear people who've spent 20, 30 years researching this, who really understand it in a really deep way, what was really interesting about their talking about it was the positivity. It wasn't like, we're all doomed and it's all going to go horribly wrong. It was like, here is the thing, here is a problem, and here's how we can use knowledge and information and education in a way to actually mitigate some of those things, which was very positive.
Recognizing the problem is number one thing. So acknowledging is important. Once we have done that, the work will happen. May not be as much as we want, but a little bit is too much.
Yeah, I agree.
If I can add, I think
raising the issue means you are aware of the people about the problems on the earth, and that is another issue as well. If you are not raising, many people are not aware of, and they are not going to try out.
True.
So our job is to create many people awareness, so the people can focus on those issues.
Yeah, I agree.
okay. And Supriya said she's a glass half full person. I am even very grateful that there is a glass. I can always find water, even if it is empty.
True. Very true. Very true.
No, in academia, I think we have to see also evidence. So Professor Steven Pinker, I think, was inspired mainly to write the book Better Angels of Our Nature. He kind of looked at vast amount of evidence, and he argued that compared to throughout the history, this is possibly the best time that is there in terms of access to medicines, knowledge, science, and life expectancy, all those things. Yes, there are lots of complex challenges, no doubt about that, and some of them being made worse by our greed or our failure to adapt to the information that has become available. But that can be changed. And if we don't believe that, I think the purpose of universities would collapse. We exist because we believe that knowledge can inform, and that can change.
I wondered if you'd like to say something about the sort of power of music and sound. I attended yesterday as well as today, and this has been fantastic. And has, when I listen to the sound and your fantastic singing, it transports me, really, and I enter a different place. So I wondered if you'd like to speak about that, and then how that might relate to the other things we've talked about thus far, about kind of doing stuff about the environment.
Great question.
Yeah, I think my skill is music, and when I come across something that is a challenging subject, or even a subject, then my immediate tendency would be to explore that through music. And I think music has the power. I mean, obviously it's the primordial sound. And yesterday, I couldn't touch upon it, but music comes from nature, which is why our collaboration is so relevant. You know, that is the sound of the birds and the water and the rain. All that filters through on Duncan's sounds comes through as a drone to me. I pick up the sound and then I improvise with some pre-existing lyrics, and then you create this world of sound which then binds everybody in the room. As you've just said, you're transported, and that is definitely the point. And if you can transport people through the vibration of sound and connect everybody together, then part of my mission is accomplished, because one of the points of the mission is the subject itself, which in this case has been other voices. But the other part of the subject is to bring everybody in the room together cohesively into one sort of space. And I mean metaphysical space rather than physical space. So that at the time that you're involved in the music, there is some seed of thought that embeds itself. And when you go away, perhaps you don't immediately think and reflect on it. But perhaps in a week's time, you might recall that last Sunday, you were sat here in this room listening to this music about other voices and about justice for animals. And perhaps you might just pick up the book or any other book or look at a documentary. So that's the power of music, I think. Transports and transforms.
I'd just add something about we started working together because I've been recording the sounds of rhubarb growing in the dark, as you do if you're a musician. Well, a lot of the projects and the things I do are to do with sound and place, and I'm really interested in uniqueness in sound. So the sense where I always think the first stage is about awareness and is about noticing. So actually working with collecting, sometimes recording, sometimes of different things, that you notice the sounds of the world, and you notice how the sound of the world here is different to the sound of the world there. And we've done a lot of projects around how does the sound of the world change, how does that change to do with the environment changing, to do with societies changing. And in a sense, the first stage is that noticing and developing an acoustic ecology approach, thinking about what the sound of the world is. And that includes things that we might not aesthetically choose as well. So it's like, it does include aeroplanes and engines and all it has to include all the things that we don't like necessarily, as well as the things we do like. So which refers back to the being hopeful, in a sense that I think the first stage is to notice, and also notice how, because obviously the Carnatic tradition that Supriya sings is very much a drone-based music, and how that is one of the universal things. That is quite a universal thing, and it used to be a universal thing in Western music. We haven't really forgotten it. We're sort of re-remembering that it used to be like that. So that sense of the things that connect us, I think, as well.
Yeah, really interesting. I had one question about language, which I think is a really sort of interesting theme in today's session. I mean, we've heard English, we've heard Sanskrit, but then there's this popular notion that we've all heard, I think, and this is one that I like to ask students and like to challenge them with, is music a universal language? And I know, Duncan, we talked about that when we were thinking about this, but the idea of what language can do in terms of making things specific, and we talked about some really specific political ideas and realities, and then what music can do that is not specific, but becomes more specific if it introduces poetry. Mm-hmm. And how specific is that? How open to interpretation is that? How do those kinds of different levels of specificity come into your creative partnership?
So that's a very relevant question, and one of the things that we do in many of our projects is to say, do not worry about the lyrics. You know the context. For example, today's theme, everybody is aware of what the theme is and what the context of the show is. So I would say, I completely understand that you don't follow Sanskrit, or you don't follow Hindi, one of the other languages that I sang. So if you didn't follow that, but you still captured the emotion behind the words, and that should be sufficient to carry the music through. I'll give you a great example of one of the projects that we did. One of the nicer, not climate change projects, but one of the other projects that we did. So we did a project called Sound of Tea. Now, tea is a drink that all of us know, and we drink it differently in different parts of the world. And so we did a project that asked the question, what does tea sound like? What does oolong sound like? Or what does Darjeeling sound like? Or what does smoky tea sound like? And we did a whole project on tea, a lot of research, a lot of tea drinking. And in the end, it didn't matter what the language of the tea was, but the audience came in, sat down on some lovely digitables and interacted with Duncan and drank wonderful cups of very, very nice tea, because we had a tea consultant on board. So in a situation like that, where the subject is tea, the audience comes expecting to drink the tea, and then the language doesn't matter. I could sing in Tamil, or I could sing in Hindi, because that's the language I'm most connected to. So I choose the language that I feel spiritually and emotionally connected to, because I can express it better through the music then. So I think language is important, but there is more that carries the music as well.
I think in music, you don't need to know the languages, because the music and themes and melodious song can go inside your heart and touch your heart. Yeah. Therefore, whatever the language you are using in music, people can understand through the theme and sounds and rhythms.
Yeah. I agree.
And there's something about that bringing people together and this being a kind of opening of creativity rather than providing all the answers that music probably does quite well there. Are there any other questions in the audience? Yes.
I'd just like to ask if you do anything with children, as being the future, where we'll all be in the past fairly soon. But how do you do projects with children?
All the time. So we work Duncan does a lot more than me, but we work in schools, in the community. Most of our projects originate in the community. So it's about school groups. And when I say schools, it's not only school children, but school families. So it's the parents, the teachers, the staff working in the school. So it's an all-school project, and we have done many projects of that nature. Our Lullaby project, for example, originated in schools, and in the community in Dewsbury, where I live. So we experimented with the mothers and the families and the children before we took it out, and it's now for adult audiences, but we have 800 lullabies in our collection, and we have traveled the world with that project. So I'll let Duncan talk about schools a bit more.
So I do a lot of projects in education. I've done a lot of projects around sound and music things. but also a lot of projects around endangered sounds. So about thinking about sound and place, and about sound marks. You know, what's the unique sound of where you live? How is it different from somewhere else? And in a sense, when we first worked, because I did this project with a rhubarb farm at a primary school, the Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival, that was about the uniqueness of that. So that was a project about, so it's the only place in the world where they force rhubarb like they do, and it makes a noise as it grows, and it's the only way you can ever hear it is to go there, and it has that sense of rootedness in that part of Yorkshire, and it was a great catalyst for collecting recipes and all sorts of things like that. So the sense that that listening as an active thing. So I do a lot of work in schools of really different kinds. I do underwater music for hydrotherapy and all sorts of different things like that. But very much all rooted in that idea of music being a flexible thing that you can make yourself. And you don't necessarily need to understand what it is when you're making it. Or it's not necessarily about learning a set of genre rules. It's about exploring sound that connects to you and then building something out of that, I think. And a sense of play with it as well, which seems really important, I think.
Really liked your story with the rhubarb. I was just wondering if you have any more, anybody has any more examples of how a place connects with a sound and how you've noticed that.
Place connects with the sound.
Place connects with the sound. Yeah, I'll say this very quickly. I'll give you a link to it. I did a project a few years ago in northeast Lincolnshire that was about the sounds of place. And I was travelling around meeting groups. It was just after COVID, so I did a lot of standing around at a distance, asking people about the sound of where they live. And when I went to Immingham, which isn't a touristy destination really, and I asked people what was the sound of Immingham, and they all about 8 o'clock, and they said, well, 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning. And I said, I don't understand. Well, 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning is when they test the sirens at the oil refinery. So it's, for me, I don't know what this is. And I hear these sirens, I think, oh, something horrible's gone wrong. They go, no, everything's all's right with the world. You know, if the siren goes off at another time, everyone hides under the bed and or runs away. And to me, that struck me actually, it's very similar to, I've worked in hospitals a lot. And I worked in a children's oncology unit once making music with children having cancer treatment. And hospital is very like that. You have all these sounds going off and everyone ignores them. Then you have another little sound that's slightly different. And all these people charge in. And that sense of it belonging to place is something that we use quite a lot. So I mean, that's probably quite a good example, I think. So that sense of people from Immingham will go, 8 o'clock on a Thursday, if the sirens don't go off, it's a bit upsetting. But it's very local knowledge thing, and that's quite interesting, I think, about as the world gets more and more the same, it's like recognising these things that belong in a particular place. So.
I quite like your example of the creaking staircase. One of Duncan's friends had a creaking staircase, and when they were selling the house, they wanted to record the creaking staircase because that is something that you will never hear again once you leave the house. I found that really interesting. So just adding to...
Yes, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. Well, I'm glad that I have my own creaking staircase to go. Well, I think we're at 12 o'clock, and it just... thank you so much, all of you, for such a fascinating performance. It's just been really enriching. Can we just thank Supriya, Duncan and Anand once again.